If you're feeling lost in your career lately, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not broken, you're not behind, and you're definitely not too late. What you're feeling is often very normal psychological response to a life reset. The life reset can come in different forms: divorce, a major career change, a layoff, becoming empty nester, turning 30, 40, 50, any of those milestones, and suddenly realizing, wait, is this it? Or even just waking up one day and noticing the job that used to work for you doesn't fit anymore. That lost feeling is not a personal failure. It's frequently a sign that your identity is updating. Think of it like this. For a long time, your brain had a map. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I belong. This is what I'm working towards. Then life changes. The map doesn't match the terrain anymore. So you're feeling disoriented. And it's not laziness, it's not lack of discipline. Your nervous system is saying, I need a new story that actually fits. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to rebuild that story without forcing clarity, without making impulsive decisions, and without spiraling into comparison. And we're going to blend all three lenses. So first is Buddhist wisdom, psychology, and finally, positive psychology. Tools that actually work in real life. And by the end, you'll have a practical way to identify the work you're meant to do and a simple plan to start moving towards it. Let's talk about why divorce, career changes, turning 40, 50, any of those can make career confusion feel more intense. Because it's not what job should I do, it's often who am I now? Where do I belong? What matters to me now? What does success even mean anymore? Do I trust myself to choose correctly? Divorce can shake your sense of identity because relationships become mirrors. Even if the relationship wasn't perfect, it gave you structure, routines, roles, shared future plans, the sense of we. When we disappear, your mind goes, wait, who am I without that? Career changes do the same thing. Because work is one of the most socially reinforced identity containers we have. People ask, what do you do? Not what are you becoming? So if your work changes or it stops, your identity can feel like it's floating. And turning 30, 40, 50, any of those milestones, there's another reason that hits differently. It's just not the age, because the psychological shift in time is endless. To time is real. You start evaluating. Is that what I'm doing worth the life that I'm spending? This is not a crisis. This is wisdom arriving. So if you feel lost, it might be because you're waking up. Here's the most helpful framework I know when someone feels lost. You have three identities operating all at once. Identity number one is the role identity. This is what you do and the roles you play. So you might be a spouse, a parent, an employee, a caretaker, achiever, fixer, helper. Roles can be meaningful, but roles can also become cages. Identity number two, story identity. This is the narrative you've been living inside. I am the responsible one. I don't quit. I have to prove myself. I'm not the kind of person who take risks. Success means stability. Stories feel like truth, but they're often just old survival strategies. Identity number three, value identity. This is the deepest layer. What matters? What feels meaningful? What do you stand for? What do you want your life to be about? When you're lost, it's often because of the role and the story identity are outdated, because the value identity is trying to come online. And that can feel like confusion, because the values don't scream, they whisper. So the work is not to figure it out all. The work is to create enough quiet and honesty to actually hear the whisper. Most people approach this wrong. They say, I need clarity before I take action. But clarity almost never comes before action. Clarity is usually the reward for the action. So instead of chasing full clarity, I want you to switch to micro clarity. Micro clarity is asking what feels slightly more alive than dead? What drains me less than everything else? What do I do that makes time pass faster? What conversations make me feel more like myself? And what prompts do I naturally notice? You don't need to find the one perfect career. You need to find the next true step. Because your nervous system trusts proof and not promises. You've been through a divorce, a big life change. Your nervous system might not trust the big leaps right now. So don't demand leaps. build trust through tiny, tiny experiments. Here's how you rebuild confidence without forcing it. Now let's bring in the Buddhist lens. One of the biggest reasons people feel stuck is attachment. Attachment to an old identity, a certain image of success, being admired, being safe, being right, and not disappointing people. In Buddhism, suffering often comes from clinging, holding on too tightly to what we think we need. So here's a question that can change everything. What am I clinging to that is costing me my life? Maybe you're clinging to a job title because it makes you feel valid. Maybe clinging to a stability because uncertainty scares you. Maybe clinging to an idea that starting over means you failed. Clinging to a belief that you must have it all figured out first. And the Buddhist invitation isn't throw it all away. It's hold on to it more lightly. Because the work you're meant to do isn't found by squeezing your life into a narrow definition of success. It's found by releasing what you have outgrown and allowing your life to breathe again. Another Buddhist idea that helps here is right livelihood. It's not about perfection, it's about alignment. Work that supports less suffering, more clarity, more compassion, more honesty. So instead of asking, what job will make me feel secure forever? Try, what work helps me become more awake? Now, the psychology lens. A lot of career confusion comes from unmet psychological needs. There are few core ones that matter a lot. Autonomy. I have a choice. Competence. I'm good at something that matters. Relatedness. I belong. Meaning. This connects to something bigger. If your job is starving one of these needs, you'll feel restless, even if it's a good job. So here's a practical exercise. Take a piece of paper and write, I feel more alive at work when, write 10 endings. Then write, I feel more dead at work when, then write 10 more endings. Patterns show up fast, and these patterns aren't random. They're data, not drama. Another psychological piece. After major transitions, we often enter a phase called identity diffusion. That's when you're not sure who you are. It can feel scary, but it's also a fertile phase because it means you are no longer living on autopilot. You're choosing. This is the beginning of purpose. Positive psychology gives us two extremely useful tools that are meant to do work. Tool number one is flow. Flow is when you feel so engaged that time disappears. For example, when I play music or I'm at the gym, then I'm in the flow. Not because it's easy, but because it's absorbing. Ask yourself, when do I forget to check my phone? What tasks pull me in? What kind of problems keeps my attention? Flow is a compass. Tool number two is strengths. Not skills you can do, but strengths that energize you. For example, empathy, creativity, teaching, storytelling. A big mistake people make is choosing careers based on what they're capable of, not what actually brings them alive. You can be capable and miserable. You're meant to do work is usually where you're effective and you feel more like yourself. So how do we combine this into something usable? Here's a simple North Star formula. The work you're meant to do is the problems you care about, the strengths you naturally use, the values you refuse to betray, and the people you understand deeply, and finally the environment that supports your nervous system. So let's make this real. Problems you care about. What makes you want to help, to fix, to teach, to build, or to protect? Strengths you naturally use. What do people thank you for? What do you do that feels natural? Values you refuse to betray. For example, honesty, freedom, depth, compassion, growth, service, stability, and creativity. People you understand deeply. Often, the people you're meant to help are the people you once were. Environments that support your nervous system. Some people thrive in fast-paced chaos. Some thrive in quiet focus. Some need warmth and collaboration. And some need independence. If you've been through a divorce or major life change, your nervous system might require a different environment than before, and that matters. Now let's turn this into an action, because this is where most people get stuck. Here's a 7-day clarity plan that doesn't require quitting your job or making huge decisions. So, day number one, inventory your energy. Track what drains you and what energizes you. 2. Value check. Write down top 5 values, then ask which ones is missing from my current work. 3. Flow moments. List 5 moments from your life we experience flow, work and non-work. 4. Strengthen reflection. Ask 3 people. What do you think is my biggest strength when I'm at my best? 5. Identity release. Write, I am allowed to outgrow, and finish that sentence 10 times. 6. Tiny experiment. Do one small action that tests your interest. A small course, a volunteer shift, informational interview, a side project, 1 hour deep dive into a topic that you like. Create something and sharing it. And finally, day 7, debrief. Ask, did I feel more like myself? Did my anxiety go up or down? Would I do this again? What did I learn about what I need? This is how clarity grows, not by thinking harder, by living your way into the answer. Let's protect you from the big traps. Trap number 1, comparing your timeline to someone else's. You didn't live their life. You don't have their nervous system. You don't have their responsibilities. Your path is allowed to be different. Trap number 2, waiting for confidence. Confidence doesn't come first. Evidence comes first. Trap number 3, making the perfect choice the goal. There is no perfect choice. There is the next aligned choice. Trap number 4, over-identifying with one label. You are not your job title. You are a person in a process. If you're rebuilding after divorce or a major life change, confidence can feel fragile. But here's the rule. You don't rebuild confidence with affirmations. You rebuild it with proof. Proof like keeping small promises to yourself, finishing tiny projects, practicing a skill, showing up even when it's messy, and building consistency. So if you want to find work you're meant to do, don't ask, what will make me feel confident? But ask, what can I do this week that I can be proud of? That one question changes the trajectory. Check the pinned comment below for helpful resources on this topic. And here's what I want you to remember. You're not lost because you're failing. You're lost because an old identity no longer fits, and your deeper self is asking for a more honest life. The work you're meant to do isn't some magical lightning bolt. It's a result of listening, experimenting, aligning, and building trust with yourself again. If you want help with this process, start with the resources in the pinned comment below and click that like button.